and welcome to the Digital Digest, your weekly breakfast of insights, tips and tricks, and general information that will help anyone trying to move things forward in the digital world of accounting. As always, this is brought to you by the Digital Disruptors, and we are trying to push the boundaries in the digital accounting space. I'm your host on this episode, and I'm lucky enough to be joined by Dayle Rodriguez from Creston Reeves. He's going to help us talk through a few different topics. So we're going to have a little bit of a wander around the accounting tech space, I guess, today, and just see what kind of interesting ideas and thoughts we can tease out of this. So Dayle, over to you. Quick intro, my friend, because you're not an accountant, but you're working in the accounting space doing digital transformation. So for anyone that maybe doesn't know you, it might be worth just having a little bit of background, and then we can get straight into it.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here. So my name is Dayle Rodriguez. I am a systems advisory manager at Creston Reeves. My background many years ago was web development, and I've worked in the accounting space for maybe 7 or 8 years now. Just kind of coming at things business advisory, that umbrella term, from a systems and IT perspective.
Very nice, very nice. And I've noticed there's a very different style of dress here. You're in a t-shirt, so you clearly got the heating cracked up, and I'm in a fleece and feeling a little bit chilly at the moment. So yeah, all good.
Normally I wouldn't, but I had to do the school run this morning, and the small human requires heat, so I turned the heating on. But if it was just me, I'd be like you. I just no heating, more layers. But no, the heating has been on. You're right, 100%.
Happy days. It's all good. And I should also say that Creston Reeves are winners of a fair few awards fairly recently at the Accounting Excellence Awards. And the ones that I always like to tease you guys about is the winner of the Innovative Audit Firm of the Year. And then almost always your guys come to me for a bit of help to figure out what the next level of innovation is. So I'm just putting that out there.
The banter started already. Yeah, no, we audit. What else did we do? I think last year we got ESG. That was pretty cool. Sustainability. Yeah. That was pretty cool award to get. I know a lot of work went into that. So yeah.
Yeah. Good. No slavery going on at Creston. That's good to know. So
no, they pay me.
All right, it's already started. Right, so we're going to have a little bit of a quick wander around CRM. Ryan and I have kind of touched on this before a little bit, but it's always a topic that's worth going back to because it's so complex. There's so many products out there. They all do slightly different things, and also, I guess for certainly for a lot of firms that are trying to implement CRM either in their own businesses or maybe doing it with clients. I think this is probably one of the trickiest products to get into a business and do well and get the outcomes that you're expected. And quite often I think that falls down probably in the early stages of scoping out what it is exactly that you want to do with the CRM, because people look at a CRM and go, oh, it could do a bit of everything in marketing, database, sales, pipeline, all these good stuff. But that requires a certain level of finesse, I guess, when it comes to implementation, but it also requires a certain level of engagement and interest from the teams that are going to be using those products after the fact. So what are your thoughts on this, Dayle, in terms of what have you experienced? Because there's the good, the bad, and the ugly of CRM, isn't there?
I'm just going to make a disgustingly bold statement and potentially upset all of our viewers. There is not one good accounting CRM available.
I would wholeheartedly agree with you on that.
And the reason why I say that, to justify my statement, is the way accountancy has run in the past in terms of acquiring clients, managing clients, client care, all that kind of stuff, has not been the same as other businesses, like other limited companies, other kind of processes. So often CRMs that are geared towards accountancy are geared towards timesheets and workflows and matters, which isn't wrong per se, because that's how the industry works. But it leaves almost all of the accounting CRMs I've ever looked at leave out the other components of CRM, which in my opinion are more important, which are client relationship management, which is, again, more of the marketing, more of the emails, more of the client record in terms of conversation, not client record in terms of the accounts work and prep, but like who emailed so-and-so 3 weeks ago, who did the VAT return, who had that correspondence with the client. And I don't think I found one accounting-based software that will let me see a clean chain of conversation over a year or two with key metrics for the client that I want to know. How many staff they have, what's their turnover, what's their profit, because I should know that because I'm an accountant, but it should be there on a nice easy screen for me to see. So if I'm trying to engage with that client, it's there, right? Now I understand that. Sorry, go on.
Okay, I was just going to say, I guess this is one of the problems, right? Is that, and the ICAW have looked into this a few times, is that for many practices they will have a PMS, a practice management system, which has features that some of the features that you described, like the ability to do timesheets, for example, and hold that central client record. But then CRM is a slightly different beast, and some PMS systems try to do CRM but don't do it particularly well. Then some CRMs try to do CRM, particularly accounting specific ones, but then plug into the PMS in the back end, and then it sort of breaks down somewhere. But then across the board, in terms of what a practice is using, if you want to see that turnover figure, if you want to see the last tax payable figure or something else like that, that's dotted around in lots of different systems, right? Isn't it? It's in accounts production, it's in personal tax, corporate tax software, million and one different places, and it's really difficult for practices often to surface that, particularly if they've gone best of breed. But even with the suites, it's still challenging to draw that information up into a central place that everyone can see. And like you say, the ideal place to do that is in the CRM, where you can see the conversation. So you've got this set of data that's giving you information about what is happening with the client. And then over here, you've got the conversations, and you can sort of see, are we having the right kind of conversations given the information that I'm seeing here? And of course, in the mix of all of this, we often have document management systems as well. So that's another system that sits around here, which is trying to do some of that stuff that you're talking about. But you're probably not all that interested in the compliance letters and the bits and other things going back and forth, but really the conversational things that are happening.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in my opinion, a good CRM or good system in general, right? And I know this is a massive generalization, should have the ability, if you take one person out of it and you drop someone into it who's never worked for that business, they should be able to get up to speed within a week or two. Like, obviously there's training and there's people showing how to use the system, but you should be able to get a picture or feel for that client or the process you work through within the first month. And if a system can't do that, it's not designed very well, or it's not been set up very well.
Yeah. And how do you feel about, because we're talking here, from a CRM point of view, talking exactly what CRM stands for, right? It's about the customer relationship. But how do you feel about them, the extension of that, where you can go into, doing marketing, when obviously that has an opportunity to enhance the client relationship or bring in more client relationships. But you've also got the ability to kind of manage and oversee sales pipeline as well, which is obviously, that funnel down from the marketing, deployment of an activity that happens. So I think that second part, that sales funnel part, is always really challenging in firms. Maybe we'll touch on that in a second. But what about the marketing side of things?
What, as in how we record it on a CRM, or what
or just whether or not there are any good ones out there that do that marketing side really effectively, so it's easy to kind of like, slice and dice the data and run campaigns in an effective way.
Okay. So I'll give my two personal recommendations. I'm not paid for this; they're just ones I've used in the past, right? So Pipedrive is great for smaller businesses in terms of marketing automation, and it will give you stats on your emails. And then HubSpot is a great one, right? Let's be honest; it's got a free to use one for very small businesses. The jump from free to use to paid is incredible because it's been designed to compete with the likes of NetSuite in terms of CRM functionality, and that is fantastic. You can break down stuff so crazily in HubSpot. It's not even funny. It's one of my favorite CRMs for bigger business. And when I say bigger business, I mean, like, 10 million plus turnover. It's like, it does almost everything you'd want it to do with regards to sales and marketing and them talking to each other. And the reason why I'm so passionate about it is when you're trying to forecast revenue, right? Obviously, you can do that based on your repeat business. But if you're doing it based on new sales, like how much are we going to increase next year? What you really need to know is how many leads are in that pipeline from the marketing activity, how many leads from sales activity. And the longer you have that CRM running, the longer you can go, okay, on average, we convert 2%. So if you've got 2,000 leads, 2% of that is, so roughly how many clients you're going to get, roughly the average client fee and the average client lifetime value and all that kind of stuff. And having that there can help you really enhance your business if you're looking to grow. Or even better, cross-sell to your current clients. I think very few CRMs in the accounting space allow you to go, these 10 clients work in trades. These 10 clients have got these services. These 5 don't have these 5 services. Maybe they want those. It's very difficult to do in the systems I've seen. Again, I can't stand here and say I'm an expert and I've seen every single system, but that's my observation.
Yeah, and I think certainly when you're in a larger firm like we are, Dayle, as well, I think that cross-selling opportunity, that really is one of those big missed opportunities a lot of firms suffer or struggle with in terms of just creating cross-referral opportunities and identifying opportunities when you're talking to clients, or even just having the awareness within a firm, within a department, that another department exists just down the corridor or around the corner or in another office. And we spend hours and hours and days of doing all of these activities where we try to get people in the audit team talking to the tax team, talking to the corporate finance team, and spending time doing slide presentations about why it's so important to have all of these things. And yet none of that really seems to shift the dial too much, does it? And I guess fundamentally it comes down to maybe not having a centrally focused view on, right, here's a strategic objective of, if we've got I don't know, 25 manufacturing businesses here and we only provide tax services to 15 of them, why are we not providing it to the other 10, and trying to figure out what's going wrong, what's missing there.
Mm-hmm. And again, because of a lack of effective CRM, it's very hard to see that. Like, you'll have to pull out the data, you'll probably have to put it in a spreadsheet, then throw in some pivot tables, and then do some comparatives. And you've got, that's like a full-time job. I kid you not. In fact, in our practice, we have people who are in our data team who are fantastic, by the way, but they're often pulling data from certain systems because the link to other systems isn't quite there, or it can't be manipulated the way we need it to. I realize I'm whinging. The solution to the problem is me, you, other digital instructors get together, we'll put some money in, we'll build it, and it'll be like the best system of all time.
Well, there you're throwing down the gauntlet there. I mean, that sounds awesome. I mean, yeah, I'm totally up for that, absolutely. And I think the other thing is, we touched on it, is this ability to maybe use your CRM to be able to do predictive forecasting and things like that, and actually do it with some real data and knowledge underlying that, rather than it just being, we're going to go up by 10% next year. But you really do have to have a good quality sales pipeline in the CRM to make that work, don't you? Because you need to understand not just how effective is marketing in terms of building that sales funnel, but also how effective are people at turning that sales funnel into something, in terms of something tangible. And my experience is that when you implement a CRM, quite often the partners and the managers who are going to be the ones that engage with that sales pipeline in particular are not always that keen on being measured on their success or failures, as it were, in terms of being able to convert sales into real clients. And I mean, and I think maybe that's down to a couple of things. Number one is it's new to an organization, particularly an accounting firm, because it's not typically measured, because it's just falls into a void that no one sees. But also, I think we probably have unreasonable expectations insofar as it's, I don't know, we should be converting every second client into an opportunity or something like that. And the reality is that sales metrics are all over the place for different reasons.
Yeah, I think. So I'm trying to order my thoughts and respond to what you just said. I think, unfortunately, sales in the accounting space is not a valued skill, or misunderstood. So historically, what you've had, 50 years ago, I'm a partner in a firm, people refer to me because I've done good work for so-and-so, and that's been primarily the lead source, unless you've been starting up where you're hungry and you go into networking. But if you're an established firm, people kind of know you in your area, or if you're big enough in other areas and people refer to you, fantastic, constant stream of work. You never had to sell per se. And when I say sell per se, I mean like have a strategic approach to finding out what client you want, your ideal client profile. Ask most firms, they probably don't have one. And then following up with that. So like, I'll give you an example, right? So generally speaking, in most sales roles, B2B sales, you need at least anywhere between 7 and 12 touch points, right? I don't think any firm I know of is measuring touch points from a new lead. John's disappeared for a second.
Oh, sorry, I'm back.
Sorry, I was getting on my soapbox.
It's all good. Go for it.
No,
yeah. I was going to say, I think that you make a really key point there in terms of yes, our business generally does come from referrals, and so I've worked in a few firms now, and that sort of sales and marketing function. Oh,
you're still here. I can hear you. I don't know if I've frozen or not.
That sales. It's all going crazy this morning. That sales and marketing function does exist in quite a lot of firms, but it exists in so many different ways. In terms of sometimes, it's really just about marketing to your existing clients, and so you're really just sending outbound information to clients about the latest tax news, the latest regulatory news, and things like that. And that's that's marketing not really for sales generation, but marketing for customer service. And then you've got the sort of the more salesy type stuff, which again, going back to the early days of when I joined the industry, it was outbound sales calls, cold calls and stuff, which have mixed success, and it's all a bit difficult to sort of manage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to touch on the point you said there in terms of marketing, not necessarily for sales per se. So one of the conversations I had with Alicia Hales the other day, right? She's from Silverfin. She's a customer success manager, right? And I think that's another thing that accountants might be missing out on. When you're sending your marketing or communication to your clients, it's not necessarily to sell them more services, but to retain them.
Yeah.
So there's no, you don't get a fee necessarily from sending a specific marketing email from your life sciences clients, but by messaging them and saying, look, we understand life sciences, we're aware that this has happened in this sector, we're aware that this has happened in Taiwan, which affects your medical supplies, it makes you more sticky. It's not something that gets you fees, but it's something that, keeps you in the game. I appear to be here solo. I don't know if I'm still alive, but I'm going to keep talking. This is my first time, it's my second time being on the Digital Disruptors. It's different to the show I do because there's no comments. So I don't know if you're still here. I'm still here. Did I go or did you go?
No, it's me. It's my camera
right.
completely out there, so it's all good. Happy days. I'm back now though. So
just so we clear, this episode is great because it should have been Ryan, and he and I are very different. It should have been about something else, and I would talking around stuff. And you, the host, are disappearing often.
Yeah, it's great. Happy days. We're all good. We're back though. We're back. And look, I told you my camera zoomed in as well, so it's decided to catch up with the world.
Cool. Can I ask you a question?
Of course you can.
I mean, I just did. So we're probably both woefully unprepared for this particular question, but originally this post was going to be about CRMs for charities.
Mm-hmm.
That's something, I'm not going to lie, that perplexes me because charities don't sell in a way that a normal business would sell, right?
Yeah.
Is that something you've had to deal with personally, or?
So yeah, I'd agree with you that they don't sell in the kind of normal way. Although some charities clearly do have a some kind of sales function, so far as they might have a shop, or they might have some kind of certain elements that they might give away. But I guess quite often, for me, what a charity needs when they're looking for a CRM, it's more around the fundraising, donor management, those kind of things. But those functions effectively are, they're pretty much sales functions, right? Insofar as they are really about how do I get out into the world, bring people to my organization, and then exchange cash for something, whether that's feeling good because they've donated to my charity to help my cause, or are they getting, I don't know, maybe a membership out of this? Are they getting some kind of subscription? Are they getting a newsletter and updates about particular things that are happening in my region, in my area, my community, etc.? And so, CRM is really important for charities. The challenge is that when we're talking about, there's not really a good CRM for the accounting space, dedicated to the accounting space. There's only really probably one or two that are really dedicated for the charity space. And insofar as you kind of absolutely pointed out, is that most CRMs are built for sales and marketing functions, not for sort of fundraising, donor management, volunteer management, and doing it the other way around. Because I guess the flip side of what happens with a normal sales organization is you come to me, Dayle, and I sell you something for $5,000. And we provide a service and we talk, etc.
I like you thinking that I've got $5,000 in this scenario. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, okay, £500. And whereas what happens with charities is that if I'm a charity and you come to me and give me £5,000, sometimes that could come out completely out of the blue. So we might not have had a previous relationship. But what I want to do is I want to sort of then come back to you and say, oh, thanks very much, Dayle. Your generosity is really important to us, etc., etc. But also, I want to plug you into our system so that I can maybe come back to you and go, do you know, in another 12 months, maybe we could get another $5,000 out of you, please. Is that that'd be really helpful to us in terms of having consistent funding and everything else. Because again, one of the really big challenges for charities is that, particularly if you're relying on fundraising activity, donations, is that your income is completely, completely all over the place. It's not like being able to get regular grant income. It's not like having recurring fee income like we have in the accounting world. And so, having an element of being able to manage that in some way, shape, or form is really, really important. And and the way that lots of charities do that is they offer regular subscriptions, so you could sign up and give the RNIB £5 a month, and do that through direct debit and all these kind of things. But you still need to be able to manage that in a platform that helps you. And managing it in a finance function is okay, but that doesn't give you any more granularity or any more detail around the reporting information that's useful, like how many people are paying us £5 a month, how many people are paying us £10 a month, can we switch people from £5 to £10, and how successful have we been on switching people from £5 to £10 on a regular basis, how many people drop off after they've signed up, the churn, the customer churn kind of thing, which isn't really a thing that you see in charities. So that's where CRM gives you that ability to aggregate all of this data and information and do all these really insightful things. And so it's quite funny because I often go into charities, and if they've got a fundraising team, dedicated fundraising team, I think actually they're incredible marketers quite often, and they are incredible salespeople.
Agreed.
It's just that they're not selling in the way that you and I would be familiar with. Whereas other charities who maybe don't have a fundraising team or person that sort of oversees that, it's sometimes a little bit of an afterthought. And actually, when you start to talk to them about CRM and talk to them about managing donors and volunteers and fundraisers and everything else, that you can do all sorts of incredible things. The other thing which I will just touch on, which is that fundraising element, is that quite often fundraising for charities will be around a specific event. So it could be your I don't know, it could be a local church and they want to get a new minibus so they can take the Sunday school kids to something on a regular basis. Or it could be some of the stuff that we see internationally, whereas a crisis happens, as a flood or a war breaks out, and you need to suddenly be able to ramp up your ability to get out to hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of people and say, please, can you help? There's terrible things happening in the world, and we really need to raise some money specifically to help with that. And that that again is not dissimilar to how an accounting firm might run a campaign around, oh, we've just, if I've got a load of farming clients, why don't we go out to you, Mr. Farmer and Mrs. Farmer, and talk to you about inheritance tax planning, and talk to you about how maybe we mitigate the changes that we've seen in the budget. It's absolutely no different from what a normal sales organization would do.
Cool. Thank you for explaining. Appreciate it.
One other thing that we've seen just recently in the news, which is a complete flip around, is that obviously Modular have just acquired Nook. Sort of the news broke on that the other day, and I wonder if you've got any sort of thoughts on that, because Nook were making some interesting moves in the market. Obviously, have an OCR product as well as a payments product. Modular, for those that don't know, is a very large payments organization. Have been around for a long time. They power Revolut's payment services and amongst other people. So I think it's quite interesting that they bought an open banking product, which Modular had sort of dabbled with a little bit, excuse me, and also then brought in an OCR product. And we're seeing more and more OCR payments and approval systems coming into our market, and traditional players moving up or downstream in that process as well.
So many things. First of all, everyone is bundling, right? You've now got Approval Max with OCR in it. You've now got Dext with expenses, mileage, claims, and approvals in it. Nook being acquired, I'm not going to lie, my first thought was, oh no. Because in my observation, any time a startup, scale up, or smaller business in the fintech space gets acquired by something bigger, it never goes well. When Iris, Sage, I'm saying the company names, buy some stuff, somehow the support drops off, or the company ethos changes. What made it sticky and grow in the first place seems to go away. Now, I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's purposely done, but sometimes the product just gets mothballed, right? It just gets. Hopefully, Modular will buck the trend, because they are, as you said, they're a massive business, and they keep the energy of Nook, because it's an interesting product. I do find it funny how, because I did some research on AP about 2 years ago. I'm not an expert, but what I didn't realize is Modular runs everything. Like they're like the Visa of AP, right? Like if you have a bank card and NatWest, Lloyds, where it is, it's going to say Visa on it because they're the pipeline behind it. Modular behind so many products, so sometimes it seems like it's much of a muchness. It's like, well, which face do you like the most? Or who's going to give you the best rates in terms of your AP if you're going to do international payments, non-international. So I think it's probably a good move on their part because Nook have got a very shiny, interesting, exciting brand. I just genuinely hope they don't do what other big players do and just kill it with laziness, or I don't know how they kill it, but they usually kill things.
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons why this happens. Quite often, when you've got an exit, the founders, of that business, which are really the people that drive, what that product's going to look like. They drive the ethos of the organization. They're the people that bring that excitement and that innovation often to the organization. Once they sell, even if they're tied in for a period of time, they will exit. And I think so as a consequence, almost inevitably, the culture in the organization will change for better or for worse. That's the challenge of the acquirer to kind of figure that out and make sure that the culture of the organization stays innovative, stays interesting. That if they're trying to integrate it into the wider stack of whatever they're doing, that they do that in a way that isn't disruptive, and that can be incredibly challenging because, as I'm sure you know, Dayle, lots of people build in lots of different ways, and it's a little bit like saying, well, I own a 10-bedroom mansion, and I'm going to go and buy a 1-bedroom bungalow and just strap it onto the house. It doesn't kind of work, it looks a bit funny and weird. So there's things that you've got to do there. I think the other thing that I think is quite interesting about Nook and what they were sort of developing out was this kind of concept of a supplier network, and that wasn't really talked about too much in the thing, but they had this sort of functionality in the system where, once you've verified a supplier in the system and it recognizes the invoices and the payments and everything else flowing through their system, you almost have this like secure portal for suppliers. And that's kind of functionality that you only really see in really big ERP systems. And I think that's quite fascinating to see. And I do wonder if Modular will take that on and do something really interesting with that, and how they might leverage that, given, as you say, they power payments, wherever. I mean, I think we kind of underestimate Modular in terms of the scale and size of that organization, because I think we see it in our world and think it's small
as well.
Yeah,
like all the other loads of bigger players, or in our space, like they power those as well. It's like, oh wow, just everywhere.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a fascinating one, but I mean, acquisitions are always disruptive in our market. I think. I guess it's nice to see that someone that isn't HG or the usual players has made an acquisition, and it's actually because I do think there is an issue, particularly in our UK market. This is me getting on my soapbox now. Is like we don't actually have that much breadth in terms of ownership. When you kind of dig into the detail of what's happening in our market, I don't think there's that much breadth in terms of ownership of products, and I think that reduces the opportunity for innovation and creativity in organizations. And even worse, I think, particularly when you look at some of the acquirers in terms of what they're doing, is they hold these things as portfolios, and they don't actually allow these products to cross-pollinate ideas and functionality and stuff, which is even worse, because if you've got a broad range of businesses operating in a market or even not operating in a market, but operating in adjacent markets, there's got to be ideas and things and functionality and features that you've got there that should cross-pollinate and move across between these markets. We just don't see that enough.
I agree. And that's why we need to step up. We need to take a page out of Lucy Cohen's book and start building our own stuff.
Well, that's an interesting idea, and I guess the challenge in our market is there's not many people like Lucy Cohen, right, who are willing to take a bit of a risk and take a chance and invest, and grow and ultimately be successful. But there you go. Maybe I think Dayle, that's a perfect place for us to close out, particularly given that I nearly dived off 5 minutes ago and my camera decided to play up. But look, there we go. We'll wrap up this week's show. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. It was a little bit crazy and a little bit unstructured because Ryan's lost his voice, so Dale's had to step in at the last minute. So thank you, really appreciate that, Dayle. Make sure you check out the show notes. There'll be links to anything that we've talked about, and anything that you think that's in the show that maybe you want to come back to. Just give us a shout, and we can always pick up in a future episode talk about this as a topic. And of course, if you do want to, make sure you catch capture future episodes and don't miss them, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel or look out for us on LinkedIn. We're always here on a Thursday morning, 8:30, fresh start, and we look forward to speaking to you next week.